reached a steady amount, we're going to go ahead and get started with this webinar today. So welcome. We're at the winter interim reporting walkthrough and Q&A. If you didn't mean to be here, now you can exit if you want to. But we're so glad you're joining us. As you know, interim report is going to open next Tuesday. So we really appreciate you being here, bringing yourself, and joining us with your questions. We will be using the Q&A feature to navigate through questions throughout the presentation. And with that, I will introduce my two colleagues that are joining me here to help facilitate the Q&A. We have Gabrielle Matul-Wurst with us and Leslie Gonzalez. They'll be in the background. You may know them from our awesome team that assists you, but thank you both for being here, and we will see you on the other side, the question side. I am Carly Curley. My pronouns are she, her. I'm the Assistant Director for Need-Based Programs. I have a green background, blonde hair, some glasses, and I'm wearing a checkered sweater today. I'm so pleased to join you. I always enjoy being with the FAA community and spending time with you all and hearing from you all about ways that we can better assist you. So thank you for being here again. So what are we going to talk about today? Introduction. You know us, you love us. we have introduced ourselves. We'll just give you a couple reminders. We're going to talk about the top 3 fall interim questions. So things that came throughout the interim period that would be good reminders, or things maybe you aren't aware of, so we can go through those. We're going to talk about the file upload options. We're going to walk through the interim process, and then we'll have some space for Q&A. Throughout the period, like I said, if you want to enter questions that you have in the Q&A, if we're talking about it at a given time, Gabi might come in and ask your question, or we may save it till the end, whatever will work if we haven't, if we're going to address it in the next slide. So thank you ahead of time for your questions. Before we head there, I would love to know if you want to join using the QR code. In a few words, what would you like to learn today? So what'll start showing up here is a little word bubble, but what brings you here with us today? What are you interested in? What are some things that you may want to know more about the interim process, or just things you're wondering about? So feel free to join with the QR and start putting your info in. And we'll watch as those start displaying. All right, let's see, we have a couple people typing. Excited to see what you want to know. Awesome. We will talk about the interim layout. Yes, great question. I think we're going to talk about that too. Yes, we'll spend some time on incremental upload. Absolutely. Give you a couple more minutes to type what you're thinking about. Yep. Awesome. Thanks for being here, just to see what's new and newest and greatest. Tips and tricks. Love that. All right. This is great, you all. Thank you. Definitely hear the tips and tricks we see, and the incremental. Definitely, we want to make that very clear. And we're going to go through actually like a comparison of the full file load and incremental. If at that time we go through that layout section and you have any other questions, please ask any and all, so we can make sure that we're doing that. But thank you for participating, everyone. Really appreciate you telling me kind of how you're showing up in this space and what you want to learn. So appreciate it. So here's kind of just a couple of reminders that we talked about last webinar. So big things for this year are that, the data fields have kind of changed, specifically regarding enrollment intensity changes and different restrictions due to FTI information. And so we've kind of just put in here where you can find that information, specifics in the manual. As far as data layout, I'm sure most of you have been on top of that since you've done a fall interim report, but just kind of a reminder of where you can find that information if you have questions. So, as we kind of talked about, and you probably experienced last interim, income is no longer included on the file layout. So, essentially, what you're doing is you're going to enter a transaction number that's going to match to a corresponding WASFA or FAFSA. And what you can edit in Seesaw is the transaction number. Where what you can't edit is income information, family size, or MFI. So that's kind of what was done in prior years, where you could just adjust the income and adjust various information to match the award that you have in Seesaw. But this year, this is kind of moved into a situation where you are going to match it to a specific transaction number. And we'll talk a little bit about how to problem solve if that income is not matching, or why it might not be matching, and how to resolve that. So that's just something to be aware of for this year. Very different from years past. Okay, so this is kind of how that process will work. You upload your file into Seesaw. You're going to put your award amounts, the financial aid application transaction number. Seesaw matches that information provided to the FAFSA or WASFA transaction number reported. And if the information does not match, there will be an edit to resolve. So sometimes, and like I said, we'll talk a little bit more about this. There's reasons why income and transaction numbers might not be matching. I think something we learned through this past interim, which is probably a part of my top three, is that it could be, maybe there's a number that's different on a WASFA application. So that's creating a mismatch of the transaction number and income information. So talk about that here in a moment. Just a reminder too, about data hierarchy. So there's a lot of times, I think we've grown together in this, working together and seeing, okay, we thought that the income should be this, and it's not, and it looks like it's this. And so this is kind of just a good reminder of what we're looking at in Seesaw, in terms of what income we're polling and kind of the hierarchy in which that is polled. So we have this out in guidance. It's also posted on FAA resources. If you do have, if you do have questions, or you didn't remember this this kind of hierarchy, we do have that posted. Common things that I've seen is when there's like PJ used, and that means automatically the manual information entered will be used, unless there's some fields that are blank, then it'll draw it from the FTI information. I think that's probably the most common question that we've received. So this is just a great, thing to know as you walk through. So we're moving to the top three questions. So I think the one that we still get often is, how do I resolve the student is okay to award, not okay to pay, and hasn't been awarded CBS edit? So first of all, let's think about, why does this edit happen? So why are you receiving, okay, they're okay to award, but they can't be paid, and they haven't been awarded? Why are they getting this? So the reason they're getting this is because they are eligible for college bound. They have, applied for college bound. They have a valid CBS application, but they have some information that needs to be verified in order to make them eligible for their college bound funds. So usually and typically, I would say this is the high school grad year. And this is when this shows up, when they're, for some reason, we cannot verify their graduation year from OSPI. Now, there's very many reasons why this would happen. This could be, a student that was homeschooled, private school, where they don't use OSPI. Could be a situation where, the high school hasn't reported the information for some reason. So there's varying reasons why this is not showing up in our system. But know that we do put all information that we verified through OSPI into the checker. So if there's a verify there, it does need to be verified in order for them to receive the funds and for you to be able to request funds. So what do you do in this case? So the next steps for you are, you should be requesting a high school transcript for students. In this case, if you don't have one. So if you already have one on file, just use that information to update the checker. And we'll talk about those two options there. But essentially, you're needing to verify what when they graduated, what their GPA is, if that information is available, or were they a GED student? Did they not actually get a high school high school diploma, which is required for college bound? So those are the things that you'll be looking for. Now, two options here. If you have the transcript, solid. You just go into the checker for the student and you're going to update that high school information in the override screen. So in this previous slide, you see the kind of details information here. That's what you would click on to access the override screen to update the high school graduation information. If you have a high school transcript, please update both the GPA and the high school grad date as well in the checker. Depending on what you put in the checker, so say it is a GED student that's not a non-former foster youth, and you've selected the GED option, what will happen is it'll make the OK award and OK to pay no, because they're not eligible for college bound. So that means that you can award bridge. If they are eligible and you've put in the high school information, it'll make the award OK to pay at that point too. So updating the checker is the ultimate goal that we're going to do for these students, but we know in the meantime, it can take some time to collect these transcripts. It can take, I don't know, some different emails and phone calls to students. And we know that that's a lot of work. So we really appreciate you working on that with your students and attempting to collect those items from them. So if you haven't received that documentation yet, what the guidance is to award college bound in Seesaw. So I think different schools are handling this in various ways. So we've heard that you're putting it at offered status, kind of in a status in your system that doesn't allow the funds to disperse until they give you that transcript. So we recommend that as well. But in terms of Seesaw, just make sure you're awarding it in Seesaw and not awarding bridge. So that will resolve the edit. And for all of you that are really familiar with this, that will mean you will get the CBS is not OK to pay edit. Just a reminder here, the interim report can be submitted with that edit. So you can just leave students in that edit and you can still submit your report. It's totally okay. You just won't be able to request funds for those students. And in fact, it's probably a way to track who you are still missing a transcript through if you look at that edit from time to time. Because all students that are, shifting from the OK to award, not OK to pay, and have been awarded CBS will be sitting in the CBS is not OK to pay until the checker is updated. So that's, you love it, you hate it, it does exist. And so here's just a little bit more information for you. If you have more questions, there's a really good section in the manual that talks through the various fields of the checker, talks about this edit specifically, just a lot more information about CBS and the checker specifically. And I think it would just be really helpful for you as a resource if you are kind of wondering like, okay, why does this appear? What can I know more about it? This is your area, pages 22 through 31 in the manual. Next one. Why doesn't Seesaw's calculation of the family income / MFI match our calculated family income / MFI? And there are a lot of reasons. And again, we've learned this together. So thank you so much for those that have reached out, asked questions. We've been looking at things together, comparing different income information and kind of learning as we go here with this new kind of match system. So I would say the number one reason this exists is because the institution doesn't use income offsets. And so that's something to be aware of, that we do use income offsets. Those are in the manual, listed out in the manual. And so usually what happens in this case is that the WASAC calculated amount is lower. So for those of you familiar with last term, basically the solution is to override the edits using the not excluding income offsets, not awarding bridge or CBS override. And then we'll know kind of that's why the award amounts are going to be different. So another reason that this comes up is you awarded their aid on a different transaction number than what is reported in Seesaw. So this happens sometimes when you've completed a PJ, for example, and but when you initially reported the funds, you kind of awarded their initial transaction in Seesaw, but actually the income that matches what your award is now based off of the PJ is a different transaction number. So in this case, you just have to edit the transaction number And you can just click on the edit screen to update the transaction, and that should make the income MFI match what you're expecting. Let's see, top three. Okay, we're at number three. I really appreciate y'all sticking with us here. What do I do if a student has a different ID on their WASFA application this year than last year? So we're running into this a lot. There's usually a couple different reasons why this occurs. And so the first one is when a student creates multiple WASFA accounts. We know that this happens, and we try to put it everywhere in our guidance to students to say, please don't create another account, contact us, we can help you get back into your other account. And kind of set them through the password reset process. It's usually they don't remember their email or their password or something, and we can kind of assist them to help them with that. So that happens where they're creating duplicate WASFA accounts. The second way is if they have not had an SSN or ITIN before on their application and they've added one. And the reason why that's probably showing up as well is because the order in which we award in or the order in which we place an ID for a student in Seesaw is going to be that their SSN or ITIN is used first, and then the WASFA application ID. A couple ways this could be a little confusing is that ITIN numbers do start with 9 a lot, and so it can look like it's a WASFA ID as well. So it can be a little tricky on what the new ID is and things like that. So if you find a student has multiple IDs in the portal, there's a couple steps that we need to complete to be able to resolve this issue. And again, appreciate you so much when you identify these. We're always working on a way to find a better way to find these. And so should we be able to find a way to kind of find these duplicate IDs ahead of time, we'll definitely let the community know. But until then, we really appreciate you reaching out so that we can kind of complete these next steps that I'll go over. So if they have multiple SSN or ITIN numbers, we need to know what number's correct. Same with multiple WASFA IDs. So basically what you need to do is you need to reach out to the student and say, is this correct? What number is your correct number? Can you verify? Is this your ITIN, SSN? Things like that. Reaching out to the student, and asking them, what is this number? and can I confirm that this is your, SSN or ITIN in that case? Or if you have multiple WASFA ID accounts, which one are you going to be using in the future? Typically, this is like the account that they created in the current year. So if the student has a confirmed SSN, they should be awarded on that number. If they don't have an SSN, but they have an ITIN, they should be awarded on that number. And if they don't have either, they should be awarded on their WASFA number. So that's just something to be aware of in terms of how they fall in line. It's SSN first, then ITIN, then WASFA ID. Once the correct ID has been determined and the student is awarded in Seesaw on the correct ID, please send a secure message to us to the WCG inbox via the portal, and just let us know the student name and the ID that they should be awarded on. And what we will do from that point is we will merge the student records. So we will take any ID that they've been awarded before this academic year, and we'll merge that with a newly confirmed ID so that they only have one record. Another part of that is making sure, I think I mentioned that too, is making sure you delete awards off of the old ID. That's very important as well. So you may award them on their new ID, but make sure for the current academic that any award associated with their old ID is deleted too. That way we can merge. So this last one's a note about once corrections are available. So still something we are working on with our provider. And what we can do to kind of link applications together is sometimes we can enter information on their application to kind of link their old ID to their new ID and so on. And so these are just kind of some steps that you would take in that case. Since that's not currently an option, I won't spend time going through that very long, but certainly happy to kind of go through that process with you all once we have corrections up and available again. All right, so we got a quiz for you. So we're going to be talking about Real quick, just as we go into some more information, but true or false, I can upload a file into Seesaw anytime during the academic year, not just during interim reporting period once the portal opens for that academic year. So please feel free to join the quiz and let us know what you think. I think it should be saying true or false. So maybe we have something set up a little funky in here. I don't know why it's coming through as a word, but this is great. Thank you, everybody. We've learned something through the quiz thing. And what I will say is appreciate you all for answering. I'm not sure why it's not working as anticipated, but the answer is true. You can, in fact, upload a file anytime into Seesaw. Once we are open, we can, oh, here we go. See, I didn't even know. You can upload a file anytime when the portal opens. So essentially, if you don't have to be in the interim reporting period. You don't have to wait for us to open the interim to upload a file. And we'll talk about some advantages to doing that earlier, like in the summer or any other time in between time that can help you. Ah, we see here. All right, y'all. Look at y'all. Number one students. Appreciate you. Yay. Oh, I didn't. Okay, I see what it was doing now. I'm learning with you all. I haven't used this feature before. So thanks, y'all. Appreciate you.
Carly?
Okay, so oh, sorry, Gabi, did we have a question?
Yeah, we have a couple questions. And just so
Yeah.
everybody knows, I accidentally always click the button that says answer live, and then it does not let me go back to typing out an answer. So I'd like to, these are some of the questions that came in when we were talking about the CBS part.
Ooh,
And so before we go forward, I'd like to throw these out to you.
yeah, love it.
One question, so it was suggested, so go ahead and submit report that we will pay CBS, but not Bridge until we get confirmation from student. However, don't actually pay them out in our
Mhm.
system until we get the information.
Yeah.
If they if
Oh,
they
sorry,
aren't
go ahead.
eligible, if they aren't eligible, then we can always go back into Seesaw and make that edit, correct?
Yes, that is correct. Thank you for asking. That's exactly what you will want to do. So you can't request the funds, so you can't pay necessarily in Seesaw or request the funds. However, you can award it both in Seesaw and your system. And if you have the ability, we recommend that you do kind of an offered status and wait to pay them until they submit their transcript. I know some systems have the ability to add a requirement of a transcript, so you may want to use that feature and let them know, hey, you need to submit this so you can receive this dollar amount. But you are correct. Don't award Bridge in that time period. You definitely don't want to award them Bridge, and especially for schools that do everything up front. So, say you've awarded 500 in fall. Well, if you later find out they're college bound eligible, which they are eligible until proven otherwise, I guess, by their transcript. But then they only get the 167 for that fall quarter. And so it can be kind of like a repayment thing that can turn into, we don't want that for students. So best thing to do is if they're CBS eligible in the checker, make sure you're awarding CBS. And then once you do update the checker itself, once you have that documentation, you can request the funds from us, and you can feel free to pay the funds to the student. Thanks for asking.
Great, thank you. Next one related to the same topic. If student never provides their high school or GED documentation after they've attempted to call and email,
Mm-hmm.
and the quarter has passed, and now they're into the new quarter, CBS is still in offer status. How long should we wait, and what if they end up not returning?
Yeah, really appreciate that. So we actually have a process that's kind of detailed in the manual as well. That we kind of have a turnover date, I guess, for institutions to attempt to collect the documentation. So if a student, and that date is May 1st. So if a student has not submitted their transcript, you've tried really hard to collect that, nothing has happened. In the checker on May 1st, there will be an option to provide in the override screen to say that you attempted to collect and could never collect it. And in the reason, you'll put, we attempted to email on this date, this date, this date, or however, you attempted to collect that. What that will do is it'll update the checker so that okay to award and okay to pay or no, and the student can receive bridge grant. Now, if the student has never, like say they withdrew, say it was fall term, and you never were able to collect the transcript, essentially they would not be eligible for either fund in that case. And so it'd be as you would in Seesaw, you would delete the CBS and then you would provide a reason for that your override that the student no longer attended, never submitted a transcript. Gabi, I'm kind of curious too, for the bridge piece of it, it probably would, no, it wouldn't show that they're eligible. So I think you still wouldn't award them bridge in that case. I don't think they would get either because they never submitted the required documentation and they have since withdrawn. So that's my answer. Let me know if you have other questions.
I think that's a great answer. Okay, so then the last one from the first section is, okay, with the mismatch between income MFI, would we find that because we're getting an error that the award amount is incorrect?
Yeah, and we will actually what it is, there's a couple different, and we'll talk about one of them in the we have a couple little edits that I want to highlight for you all. But there is one that says, oh, I forget the exact terminology, but we will go through it. It will tell you that there's not an application on file is one of them, or there's some terminology there as far as like they do not have a matching application. Sometimes you'll get an edit that says they're awarded over the maximum WCG or CBS, and that could be because of the income mismatch as well. So it kind of, our favorite answer, it depends, but it can depend on what the actual issue is, like whether it's not finding a student due to their mismatch of ID, or the income's different because of different reasons. So it's kind of it depends situation, but like I said, we will go over one of those edits that might show that the application is not matching.
Next ones, we will hold for the end of this section to go over the next questions. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Gabi. Appreciate you. All right, so I know we had a lot of interest in this section, which is the incremental file load. And I know that there were some things that came up through URR reporting. So we want to make sure that we're doing a great job of kind of explaining the difference. And especially since we'll be transitioning to incremental file uploads only, we want to make sure that everyone understands kind of how this file is used, what it does and doesn't do, and the differences between the full file load and the incremental file load. Okay, so the first thing is what the incremental file load does is allow you to upload partial student data instead of a full file. Now, initially, when you're first putting your students into Seesaw, so the first time for the year, you can use this file as a full file upload. So you can include all your students on it, and that's for the initial file only. So after using the incremental file as your full file load, what you're going to be doing that's different is you're not going to be doing these full file loads each time. You are going to be doing changed data since the full file upload. And I'm sorry that that's a little confusing, because when I say full file, I don't mean the full file layout. I mean including all your students on the upload. So a key difference between this and the full file upload or layout is that you have to indicate students that you want to delete from this particular layout. So, and this next screen I think will be really helpful in comparison on how they work. But for incremental file, you have to put a Y in the is delete column for a student to delete their award. So it will, when Seesaw sees this file, it's going to take a look at all the data that you've included in it. And what it's going to do is it's only going to change data that for students that are included on the file, or delete them based off of a Y in the is delete column. It does not delete students that you don't put on the file. So that's a key difference between the full file layout and incremental file. It's not going to delete omitted students. It's just going to not touch them, basically, if you don't include them on the file. So like I said, it's not going to affect any of the student awards that are not listed in the file. Very similar to our unit record reporting style. So for those of you that do work on the unit record, it's going to be very similar to that. We always like to remind that $0 awards on a file equal need met, and that does not mean that you didn't award them. So it's really important that you only use $0 in need met circumstances. What I would encourage, and something we run into a lot, is when there actually is a need met situation, but it's not being used. And so schools are having to override using, need met with grants and scholarships. So if you did use the $0 awards on your file, that would actually save a lot of time in your edits to not have to indicate an override. So just something to throw out there. It should not be used in the case of we just didn't award them. So only for need met situations. If they don't meet the eligibility or some other reason, just leave the award blank in your file. So let's go on to a little bit of a comparison. So incremental file versus the full file. Only deletes records if a Y is in the is delete column for a specific student. Only changes student information if they're included in the file, versus the full file is a fresh start every upload. So it's going to delete all the existing data, and then it will apply all the data in the file that you're uploading. So incremental is just telling the system what to change, versus the full file is a wipe out and start over type of method. So that's kind of something to keep in mind. And then if you do not need to, here's a benefit of the incremental. You don't have to redo edits for students that go unchanged. So it's not wiping out the information that you've already overridden and edit or done, already reviewed an edit, completed it. But a full file, you have to redo edits for the student if the same issue appears for them. So every time you do this full file load, you're wiping it out, starting over. And if you have the same information for students, you're going to have to do the same edits again. Hi, Gabi. Do you have
Hey,
questions?
again. Yeah, this is perfect timing. So
Yeah.
somebody asked, how do we wipe out all of our data and just start over? Incremental data doesn't seem to be loading correctly.
Okay. Definitely want to know more about that. So please feel free to reach out to us at WCG email, which I think I'll have at the end of this, but let me know. We're always happy to type it in the chat for you. But I guess to wipe out everything, that's a good question. And Gabi, I might need your assistance with this, but I think you would just have to do a file full of the same students again.
You would update the incremental file that you loaded, you would have to
Mm-hmm.
put the is delete. Check that box for all the students and it should
Mm-hmm.
clear it out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That, duh. I was thinking of change. Yep. There you go. You'd have to put a Y on the same file that you uploaded. Yep. Perfect. Thank you, Gabi.
Yes,
Any other
and if you're,
questions on this?
I was going to say, and
Oh,
if
go
you're
ahead.
still having issues, please email our WCG at
Mm-hmm.
wasac.wa.gov and somebody will be happy to look into that for you.
Absolutely.
Let's see. Somebody's asking, how are we to know which awards are to be deleted or which awards need to be deleted off of their incremental file?
I love that, because this is my soapbox moment to talk about reconciliation between two systems. So that you should have a process in place in which you are reconciling your awards that are in your student system and Seesaw. So you should have a way to know what you have reported in Seesaw versus what you have in your system. And this is something we're asking schools to do throughout the year, because I think what happens oftentimes is, they think maybe they've done that through final interim, but then you go into your unit record report and you realize, oh my gosh, there's all these things that, have been changed and we didn't do it in our system or we didn't update it in Seesaw. So this is a really important moment to make sure that you have found a way to kind of reconcile between the two systems, and know. So in terms of that question, I think it is kind of your system specific. I don't know the capabilities of kind of, which product you're using at your school, but I'm hoping there's a way that your system can identify those students since the last way that you pulled your file. I do know that SBCTC is aware, for our CTC schools, and is working to test the incremental file process this reporting period. So I know that that work is being done, but I think it might be also a question for your systems administrator.
Thank you, Carly. I know we'll go into a little deeper details further in this
Hmm.
presentation. A couple more questions about the file. So with the interim report opening on Tuesday, does
Hmm.
this mean we need to do the incremental file
Hmm.
load prior to that opening?
Yeah, so a couple of things to say about that question. I think the first thing is that we are allowing for the full file layout for winter interim still. So I know some of you will be celebrating that. You can still use the full file layout, um, for this interim, but we will be discontinuing, and we'll talk about that here in a moment, after winter interim. So we just wanted to make sure that schools had time to get on board, with using the incremental file load. If you can use it, we definitely recommend it. It's a much quicker process in terms of our system processing your data, and would definitely encourage that.
Yeah, and then this is a two-parter.
Yeah.
So do a full file upload for each quarter, then afterwards incremental file? Or was the full
Mhm.
file usually done at the beginning of each academic year, then incremental file uploads for each quarter?
Yes, thank you. That's a key distinction. So only the way to think about it is there's only one full file, the very first file that you submit into Seesaw with the incremental process. Every file, and I'm not saying the full file layout, I'm saying all of your students on the incremental file load. So you will include all of your students on that incremental file, the initial upload. After that, subsequent uploads will be the incremental file. So changed only students. So students you want to delete, students you want to have, that their awards have changed. Those are the students you'd include on the file. Everyone else you could just leave off and nothing would change in Seesaw for them. Only students that are included in the file, the incremental file, will be changed in Seesaw. Hope that was clear.
They can put a question in the box if that wasn't clear. And just to to
Yeah.
kind of remind people, I'm not sure if you are all the same people who do the unit record reporting,
Mhm.
but it is the same. It mirrors the same process as what is has been currently done for the URR. So it's not a new concept to some of you. So
Mhm.
just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, they could be your folks to talk to about it too. If they're, successfully doing URR, how did they get the system to do that for them? That could be a really good conversation.
Okay, and then if a student has a canceled winter award, we would just zero out winter and award the winter award and not is delete, correct? We only want to use the is delete if the student is no longer eligible.
Yes, thank you for asking that. That's a great question. You're right. So if you use the is delete column, it's going to wipe out the student from Seesaw. So that if you think about it, it's getting rid of all their data, from Seesaw. Versus, you're right. If they have just a changed award or award that is, maybe one term they're not eligible, you would indicate that in the award part of the file, not in the is delete column. That's a great question. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, I do want to also reiterate though that you don't want to zero them out. We don't want to put a $0 amount in there because if you put $0 amount in there in our system, it marks them as need met,
Hmm.
which keeps you from getting a edit on the person. And so that will kind of skew the reporting. So rather than zeroing it out, we ask that you blank out the field. So just leave the field blank.
Great reminder. Thanks, Gabi.
Somebody is commenting that their full file upload process to Seesaw was their process for reconciling awards. Sad face.
Mm-hmm.
It worked for me.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, is there a way to download all data from Seesaw in the same file format as we are required to upload the data to allow for a comparison?
Ooh, great question. I believe that, and Gabi, I might need your help with this one. That should be in our reports. Is that an option in the reports area?
We might need Victor to
Victor.
chime in, but I believe on the, of course, on when you're in the students in Seesaw, we do have the option to download the CSV file. So those should come out in the same, but not absolutely positive. So we will wait for Victor to send us a little message.
He did. He did.
Okay.
He said it is in the reports. Victor, I don't know if you can just come on off mute. Oh, I probably can't. I don't know if you're sorry, you're probably not a panelist, but if you want to just message us real quick which one it is. But essentially there's it's under the Seesaw menu. There's a Seesaw reports, and you actually might be surprised how many things are out there. Victor's going to get the specific name of the report because I know downloading the information from the student page is a different layout than the file layout. But thank you, Victor. We'll let you all know once we get that answer.
Okay. Um, there's comment that SBCTC does not have the incremental file working yet for this
Yep.
round of interim. They're saying we need to use the full file.
Yep.
We are aware of that. Thank
Mm-hmm.
you. We have been giving notification to all the schools that we were removing the full file layout. We've had it in this last program manual and prior, but we know that some schools are still testing and trying to get it to work for their systems. Therefore, we've been
Mm-hmm.
postponing it. And the plan is to have it up and running once we get the confirmation from SBCTC.
Mm-hmm.
And they had indicated that they thought they would have it done for this winter interim report. So thank you.
Yeah. So, and the report that you'll be looking at is the All Student Awards report in Seesaw. So it's Seesaw reports and then All Student Awards. And it's going, when you download that information, it'll be the same file format as the full file was. So, yeah, thank you for asking that. Appreciate it. I always have to remember this too. And in fact, I have to ask Victor this a lot. So appreciate the reminder for myself as well. Yeah, and definitely, even though this will provide the full file layout, you will have to use, like, if you're wanting to change it from this report, you need to add the is delete column and use it as an incremental file. So but it sounded like the person wanted to use it like just to compare your records. So let us know if you have more questions about that. Do we have other questions too, Gabi?
We're going to do one more and then we'll move on with the rest of your webinar.
Great.
Will the incremental files include new awards in addition to changes to existing awards that were part of the original full file?
Yeah, you all are so smart. I really appreciate this. Yes, exactly. You would put new awards too. Thank you. I know I've been speaking in terms of changed or deleted, but that does include new awards as well. So like if winter start student and they haven't been awarded in Seesaw, absolutely include them on the incremental. All right. Thank you, Gabi. And thank you all. These are great questions, and I really appreciate it. So let's go ahead and move forward. Where can you find these? So, you know, your best friend, the FAA resources page, my best friend too. I access it, I think, every single day. But this is where you'll find our file upload or layouts for you. The full layout is still there and still appropriate, even though it says 23, 24. If you were looking for that layout to do one last time this term, you could access it there. I'll show you other place to access that as well. So when you kind of go into the portal and go to Seesaw, you're going to see there's a couple different templates there. You can download both templates right there when you're in the upload section of Seesaw. So either way, and just another reminder, we will be discontinuing it after winter. But like Gabi said, we are working closely with SBCTC for the CTC schools. and want to make sure that that's working for everyone before we, pull it from the website. So don't worry, we're definitely in communication. Other schools, if you have other system challenges, please do reach out to us and let us know, so we're aware. We would love to know that from you as well. Okay, y'all. So now it's time to go through the actual interim reporting process. Last year we were able to do this as kind of a live demonstration. It's a little bit harder now since we have secure information in there through the process. So we aren't able to do that, but we are going to do some screenshot walkthrough, and we'll talk through the basics of the interim report. If you are new to the interim reporting process, and you just need a little bit of time to walk through things, please know we are available to do that. We're definitely able to sit one-on-one, two-on-one, whoever needs to be involved, and do some training or walk through your questions. Just reach out via the WCG email, and myself or another team member will schedule some time with you to walk through your questions. We just want to make sure you understand and are successful, and helping you work through this. Okay, so I always say this, and it's probably like a broken record, but essentially, I think of the process in terms of how it's laid out in Seesaw, as like a step-by-step process, and you kind of work through your tabs. So, you're going to have to go through these steps to be able to fully submit your interim report. So just like I said, it's in order, even in the actual Seesaw and layout, as to what you're going to do next. So you're going to start with your upload process, go to edits, request your funds, appropriate terms, and submit your review and submit your interim report. So we'll talk a little bit more about that now. Okay, so if you're an 80s child, you may have loved the beloved band and boy band NKOTB. Shout out to those fellow New Kids on the Block lovers. But I couldn't help but think of Step by Step when I think about this process. So once your file's ready for you and you're ready to go and upload it, you're just going to go to the upload, click on the choose file button, and upload your file. When you do that, it's going to show you, it's going to display all of the information that you've included in your file. So this is a really good moment for you to take some time and look and review real quick to see, okay, this is kind of looks like what I'm anticipating. If you had a total, lots of need met awards, for example, that might be a key for you to look at your file and be like, I don't know, there shouldn't be this many $0 awards, or things like that. So look over and review, make sure it makes sense. And this is a good information too for you to know, like if there's information about a student's being deleted. So when you do the Seesaw upload process, at the top, it'll actually tell you, for incremental files, it'll tell you, how many students will be deleted based off of this file. So there's some really good information just on this screen in general for you to pay attention to, and just take a moment to review before you click the Save Upload button. When you click the Save Upload button, it's going to start the process of putting your file contents into Seesaw. So a successful upload will look like this. It's going to direct you to go to the Address Edits tab. If it wasn't able to upload, there should be information and provide you information about why it wasn't able to upload, and give you some errors that you might need to fix in your file. Once you fix them, you should be able to have a successful upload. If something's going on, like maybe Seesaw's acting a little weird, you've been trying to upload a file for an hour and it's not working, please reach out. We always are in touch with our IT team if there's performance issues, and we're happy to look into that for you. That isn't normal to have to wait an hour to get your file to upload. So definitely let us know, and we can kind of move on from there. So next step is to click on the Address Edits or the Edits tab, and that will get you moving into what is considered the most work in terms of, of what needs to be done for the interim report to be submitted. So you're going to have your edits. Once you get to the edits page, you'll see that you have a total amount of edits that you need to address. And then there's some that are going to be informational. Informational edits do not have to be addressed in order to submit your report. However, we do recommend looking at them because it could be things like a student might be under awarded accidentally. That's probably the most common one that I've found in my experience with the informational edits. But the ones that absolutely have to be completed are going to be the edits that are non-informational. Okay, so when you access the edit tab, like I said, all edits will be there. They're going to be listed by fund type. So that's kind of helpful in terms of like, maybe you're going to go through this and your trick to completing the interim report is to address all bridge edits, or you have a way of addressing these. And actually, if you have any tips and tricks that you found helpful, we'd love to hear from you about that too in the Q&A function. Many edits are interconnected. So sometimes when you're resolving a student, you may find they have another edit that's connected to them. So there's a couple different ways to manage these, but definitely have to start somewhere. So you're going to have to start with an edit and kind of go from there. So to do so, you're going to go ahead and click on the edit itself. And then after that, it's going to bring you to the list of students that you have to address and see what the issue is. I like to sort them by last name just to keep them together, because it doesn't necessarily lump them by name order together. And they may be in there for multiple terms. So I think that's a quick tip for you, just to sort them by last name. In this case, we have this, edit: bridge students must receive maximum Washington College Grant Award. So this is kind of something that's really, that has come up, I guess, in the interim a lot, which is when a student has a reduced Washington College Grant Award, but they're receiving like full bridge or full CBS or passport. So the student must receive the maximum amount of Washington College Grant first before being awarded other funds. So that's something to be aware of. Students' names will populate. You can, click on the link to go directly to their student detail record. And this is where a lot of people are going to address edits. Sorting by their last name can be helpful, like I said. And if you know the fix to the override, you can do it directly on the screen. So if you're already on the screen and oops, they should have had, they shouldn't have had bridge, they should have had maximum WCG. You can just adjust the numbers right there on the edit screen and click save, and then that will resolve the edit if it's correct. It is good to review the student detail information, though, because that's where you can go in, and we'll talk about this next, and actually look at all the edits a student has. So one way to handle the edit or the interim report is to, once you're in there for a student, look at all of the edits they have, and you can fix what you need to fix to, fix all edits for a given student. Another way is just to go edit by edit and fix, by the edit itself. So when we talk about the student detail record, what we mean is when you click on the student's, the arrow by the student's name, not the student's name, because I'll bring you back to Seesaw, but the little arrow that's above the name or by the name, brings them into their individual record. And this is also what you will see if you search by students and you are going to click on a student from there. And you will, anyways, that's where you'll get to the detail record. The little box with the little red arrow is basically, or triangle, will tell you the edits that a student has. These can be both academic year, on the academic year, or by term. So if you want to know all edits that a student has, you can look at those boxes. This is also where you're going to see that we put comments if we did not approve an override, and we'll say the reason why. So it's very helpful for a couple spaces, and this is also where you're going to edit and change information. So to change anything for a student, you want to click on the edit icon, which is the little box with the pencil, and that will bring you to their record, and that's where you can make changes to their awards. Click the trash can to delete an award completely, or adjust the award, and you'll click update student to save those changes. Now, it'll take a moment for the system to recognize the change, and either refreshing your page or waiting a couple moments, you'll see that the edits should disappear that was associated with the changes you made. So a couple things, I said I would highlight these. So this is the one, the question that asked, how will we know? One of the new edits that we have is a student does not have a FAFSA or WASFA on file. This typically occurs when we cannot match the ID number the student is reported under to their WASFA or FAFSA. So this is the one I was kind of thinking of. And so here's some troubleshooting tips. Student ID doesn't match what's reported on their application. Could just be a typo. Could just be that they put a new number on, like we talked about in the WASFA section. Student hasn't listed your school for some reason on their financial aid application, or just it just doesn't match. They don't have maybe you reported number 5 accidentally, and for some reason they don't even have a 5th transaction. Really, you meant to put a 2, something like that. Those would be some common reasons why that could happen. Or maybe they're a WASFA student and you put 2, but their transaction numbers begin with a 50. So that would just be something to take a peek at for troubleshooting. Another one we wanted to highlight during this is the student has been awarded WCG and WGA in the same academic year. And so this happens when a student is attending a program and they're also in an apprenticeship program where they're receiving the WA grant for apprenticeship. And so there's a couple different overrides for this option. And so typically what schools will do is WASAC to verify that the student is not overawarded. That's when we'll work with our WGA team on that. Or my college paid on adjusted COA, tuition and books only. So it works like any other concurrent awarding or dual enrollment. But one of the programs, either the school or the apprenticeship, will have to do adjusted cost of attendance. How we handle this in Seesaw, which most of you might be familiar with if you had 2 different schools report at the same time, is we are going to approve the school that has requested funds first. So if 2 students are awarded at a school or they're awarded in a WGA program, we will approve the school on full cost of attendance, whoever requested funds first. This is a moment to tell you this is an advantage of getting your file of students in Seesaw as early as possible. So what can happen is if you're late in uploading your file for the year, then WA grant for apprenticeship might have already paid back in August, but you've uploaded in October, and so therefore they get to pay on the full cost of attendance, and you'll have to adjust to just tuition and books. What this usually means, it can mean that that's not enough cost of attendance for them to receive any state aid if they have full Pell, so there can be various things that can happen, and we definitely don't want that to happen late in the year for a student. So something to be aware of. All right, next step, request any funds. So when we say request funds, we expect you to request funds on an ongoing basis. So you should be doing this every month, going in there, requesting any funds for new awards that you've reported. However, before you submit your interim report, you'll want to request any funds from that term and before. So for example, for this current winter interim reporting, that would be summer 1, fall, and winter. You can review all the funds you're requesting. You can download all the funds you're requesting. Might be helpful for your finance office. Super cool. There's a CSV option. You click to agree to request all funds, and you'll see the confirmation that you have requested. That then comes to us, and we work on approving payments every day. So you'll see the confirmation and know that has gone through. I know we're running close to time, so I appreciate you all, and I really appreciate the questions. We're nearly done. So a couple things we want to remind you of when you're getting ready to submit the report. The left-hand column, you'll see there's some different things that you can review as a double check. So you can look at awards and payments that you've requested and what you've awarded, totals, total people eligible, anyone that has a receivable. Definitely take a peek at your information review and make sure we'll look at it too. We review all of this information as a part of our review too. But it's great for you to take a peek and make sure that everything looks as you're expecting. Once that's true, you can click the submit interim report. If that button is not blue for some reason, that means that you might have some edits that you still need to resolve. So I would recommend going to your edit tab just to double check. Once you submit, a confirmation email will be sent to you and to our email address. And again, this is the email you can reach out for any type of help. And wcg@wasac.wa.gov. We review every override that you do. And so if for some reason we can't approve an override, we will always reach out to you and let you know why and what needs to be changed. If we revert your report, and then you can change that and resubmit it. So don't hesitate to ask questions if you get that email. Last little reminders here for everyone. Request all your payments. Make sure to do that. If there's an owing balance, you don't need to pay that during this interim period. Owing balances are reconciled after final interim. So if you're in the negative after requesting all funds, includes negative funds too, you don't need to send us any money. We do that all at the end of final interim. Pay close attention to the due date and please start early. Don't start the day before. There's a lot of review that has to happen. And you never know, you have a ton of edits to look at. It might take you a long time. There might be some problems. So we definitely recommend starting earlier. And then we're here for you. If you have any questions, don't understand something weird is popping up or something isn't working, don't hesitate to reach out. Okay, we're a minute over time. I really, really appreciate you all being here and again for the excellent questions. Gabi, did we have any other questions that popped up that we could go through for those that can stay?
No, there's no current questions.
All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone. Really, really appreciate you. I hope your winter slash spring semester is going a great start. And like I said, we'll be opening the interim next Tuesday. Don't hesitate to reach out for questions. And we're always happy to hear any feedback from you. If there's other training sessions that would be helpful or other things you'd like to see in the spring interim walkthrough, please just let us know. We're happy to include those. But have a wonderful day and thanks for being here.